Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some routing work on this butterfly. We're literally going to route out all the white sections, so we've no need to pencil any of this in, with black's already been done by the printer. Once we've removed all the white sections, we're going to use multicoloured resins and literally fill each one of these in with a nice separate coloured resin, obviously matching them up as we go along the wings. Before we do all that, we'll also cut it out with a scroll saw. I'll use a spiral blade on this one. You can find a blade that you're comfortable with. And then we'll seal it with something, with it being plywood. You can see there's 3 different layers to that. I'm going to set my router, my CNC bit, literally the depth of that first layer. Then hopefully when we come to remove the inner pieces, we shouldn't interfere with that middle section, and that'll be plenty deep enough, is that. In fact, if I get a Dremel bit on the side, just say like so, that's 3mm deep, is that? I don't know if you can see that. So 3, so it's 9mm in depth, the full piece. We're just going to remove the first 3mm, just allow enough to get our resin in. As always for me, we're going to go around all our lines first with these CNC bits. They're a small Dremel size shaft, 3.175mm, so you require a 6.35mm adapter collet, and that's literally just a tube like that. That fits in there. That now fits into a 1/4 inch router. If you didn't have the adapter and you have the Dremel attachment router, you could just put that straight into your Dremel, no problem. So we use that to go around all our lines, either side of the black line there. Same again there, just to separate that small piece from that piece. Then we know when we come in with the mill end bit, we're not going to get into that and make anything pop out, hopefully, because we've already separated the 2 pieces. Once we've gone around all that, we'll pop on one of our end milling bits. These come in different sizes. They've got the same size shaft on as the CNC bit. So we'll literally find one that we want. Quite a decent size one on this one, to be honest. We'll go for a bigger one. Nice big one there. And that is just a case of removing the CNC bit, popping that in, up to that little barrier, that little pink barrier, that little click. And we'll remove all the white sections, and that's enough to pop our resin in. Okay, as always for me, we've got our template sorted. It's a nice size of this one. It's 11 inches by 17 inches, I believe. You just check that quickly. Yeah, that's 17 inches wide, so it's a good size. We've placed it on our plywood. Got our carbon paper underneath. I have to do 2 pieces on this one, 1 and 2. Literally draw around it, and that's it. That's good to go. It's all ready now to route on, and that's enough. That way we can use that template over and over again if need be. Okay, let's set up our CNC bit, and we'll literally start routing around these edges. Okay, just before we start routing this one out, I've made 4 little sample holes there on this side bit. If you remember, we're going to cut this all out eventually, so this is just wastage on the side. And I've gone down to that first 3mm. It looks a little bit too deep, and obviously because we're putting resin in, we don't want to waste a lot of resin. So I've brought it up slightly, done 4 little holes there. It's hard to see, but they are at 4 different depths. And I think I prefer this one here in the top corner. So we'll make a note of that one. And when we put our mill end bits on, we just set it to the same depth. 15-degree bit in today. First time I've used a 15. I normally use 20s and 30s. So we'll see how we go on with the 15 today. So we've set it up. Let's start routing this one out. Right, we've made it all the way around with our CNC bits. You can see from that, hopefully, done all our lines here, no problem whatsoever. It's a bit powdery and rough. That could just actually be the ply itself and the glue they used to stick it all together. 1/2 inch ply, remember this one. And you notice on these holes there, I'll literally just remove those with the CNC bit. So all you got to do now is pop on one of our end milling bits. I'm going to go for this one, just a nice size. I don't want to go too big. With it being ply, we need to get to these little corners here, these tighter areas. So I'm going to do that one. We'll pop it on our adapter collet, remember? So just in case you're moving your CNC bit, slide that on there up to that little green barrier. And we can set it to that depth of any one of those holes. Or remember, we have one in the corner over here to set. So we'll set this to the same depth in our router and literally start removing all these inner sections. We'll do that next. Right, we've made it all the way round with our end milling bits. That's really nice and smooth. We won't have a lot of sanding to do, if any, on the bottom of this. Because remember, we're going to cover it all with resin. So why waste time and effort doing it? I had one issue, and I just want to point it out. This middle section here, the actually end milling bit started to loosen off inside its adapter collet. And it started going deeper and deeper. You can see by the different coloration that we've gone into the next layer. Lucky for us, we're going to fill that with resin, so I won't tell anybody if you won't. Okay, cutting out time. Now, you could have left that on that board if you wanted to. Obviously, if you'd have made these kind of holes over there, made a nice frame for it, and you could end up towards the finishing line. I'm going to cut mine out with a scroll saw blade. I like to use the spiral blade. They're not for everybody, and they do take some getting used to. And that's literally just like that. And as you can see, the blade is spiraled all the way up from top to bottom. I have to use these adapter clamps in my old draper saw. All your more modern saws, they're just clips and you just lock it in, unlock it. But they're okay, they do the job. Good thing about spiral blades, we can start off in one corner. And if you just feed that like so, going around the antennae. Are they antennae? I don't know what they are really, to be honest. I do have issues about these, with it just being plywood. If these break off, the next option would basically just put some wire in, and we put the little bits on the end. So we've always a backup plan should it all go wrong. And we can literally cut around this like so without moving the wood too much, because it will cut in any direction, your spiral blade. Whereas a normal blade, you're going to have to start there, feed it down, and then keep turning, feed it down, turn, feed it down, and you go back and forwards all the time. If you prefer straight blades, use them. I prefer the spiral blade. Okay, let's cut this one out next. Right, we've made it all the way around. Everything's still intact, which is a good sign. That's wastage now, that surround. You could actually use that on another project by sealing that back up, and you could probably put resin in there and maybe fill it full of bottle caps or something, I don't know, bits of wood. So you can always use your wastage for another project if you wanted to. But today we're doing this butterfly. Now his antennas are still intact. They seem quite firm, but I wouldn't like to knock them, to be honest. So just a general tidy up, get rid of these little fuzzy bits. Just go delicate with this one. I don't want too much of this top layer to come chipping off. So I'm just gently going to sand it all over like so. Just get rid of our pencil lines. And then we could put on some linseed oil just to darken this back down again. You could put black paint on this if you wanted to. I'm quite happy to put some linseed oil on, and then we'll straighten these sides up. And if there is any holes, if I have just a quick look, to be honest, there isn't any today. I'm sure I can find one if I look. Oh, there we go. Little holes like that. We'll just put a bit of wood filler in there and just fill them in. Okay, general tidy up. Bit of linseed oil on. Bit of our finishing spray, just to seal these edges. And then we're on the open stretch. Right, just before we get to the resin side of things, just a quick recap. So remember, we've sanded this down just with sandpaper. Normally I have a Dremel with some engraving bits and go around the inside of this, but they don't need to do too much work on the base, as it's all going to be covered with resin. And this plywood cuts really straight with that 15-degree CNC bit, so nothing to do there whatsoever, just a light sanding. Just get rid of our pencil lines and stuff. And then remember, after we did all the sanding down, we put on our boiled linseed oil, just to darken that wood down. You can see how dark it's gone. And once that was finally dried, I went over with our crystal clear spray, just to give it a nice shine and to seal inside the side walls of the stuff that we've routed out. Just in case the resin should bleed into the sides. It might do, it might not, but your best play is safe. Also, if you put your resin in and then decide to put a clear spray over the top, you will find it dulls all the resin down. So you had a nice shiny resin, and with you putting the lacquer spray varnish over the top, it just goes all dull. So I tend to make out this is a completed project, as if you just finished it off. So you can see we've got that nice shine on there. Everything's nicely sealed. We've filled in the odd little hole that we had there somewhere. All the sides are all sealed. Nice shiny, as if it's a finished project. And the way I like to do it is literally to put my resin in now, and then I leave it to set, and that's it, finished. You could put the resin in, put a little bit extra in, and sand it all down flush, and then put clear resin over the top to bring it up that way. I'd rather that you can still feel the little veins or barriers in between the two different colours of resin. Okay, that's it for outside. We'll go indoors now and start putting on our resin. Right, we've come indoors now. Any dust that's floating about, it will stick to this resin like it's a magnet. So just be careful of that. So the resin I'm going to use, as always for me, is Amazing Clear Cast. It comes in two parts, literally A and B. A being your resin, B being your hardener, catalyst, whatever they want to call it. And you mix it by volume. So there's no weighing scales involved. It's literally a couple of these plastic party beakers I use. You can get these really cheap. And I mark it off an inch at a time. These have little marks down the side. So 4 there, 4 there, 8 there, 8 there. As long as they're both the same, so you mix an inch of A, the resin, an inch of B, the hardener. Literally mix the two together, Pour the B into the A because that flows a lot easier. They do say put a third beaker, I just don't see the point. Once you mix the two together, 2 or 3 minutes, following instructions, we'll drop a bit of colour in. I'll just use these cheap random eBay specials. I've no idea what kind of coloration we do. If you wanted to do, you could go around and drop one in each section, just to give you a rough idea what you're going to do, because that side will be exactly the same as that side. Okay, I'll mix this off camera. We'll drop a bit of colour in, and I'll do 1 or 2, then I'll just start putting it all in, and we'll come back when we're heading towards the finishing line. Remember, we've put on our clear spray and everything, so once this resin's in, we'll go over it with a lighter. That just helps release any air bubbles in there, and this little project will be finished. Okay, let's start mixing some resin. Okay, that's our resin nicely mixed. If you feel we have too much in there, you can put half into another cup, and that'll sit nicely to one side, instead of mixing too much of one colour that you feel you don't need. But I want to put quite a bit of red on the first one, so we're going to leave that one as it is. And there's your colour. These are dyes. You can get inks, powders, different things like that. So we just drop a bit of that in there. Oops, not that cap. We definitely don't want that going in. So we'll fish that out, like so. Just drop that in there. Okay, so mix it up, you get a lovely red. We can do this quite thick with the colouring, because it's not like we're doing stained glass effect. So you can see that that's still quite runny. So we're going to pop some more in there. Another 4 drops. They do vary these colours. That's a slightly darker red, if you can see there. And you can also mix them, so you can put 2 colours together. Whoops, to give you a third colour. Don't be frightened about going over the top. They all mix together in the end, as you can see from that. And that's it, we're ready to put it in. So basically what we do, we just start filling up a few sections, then it's the same process with a different colour, same mixing, same process, different colour, and on and on. So you won't want to see a lot of that. And we can come back once this is completed. So just in case now, these plastic spoons are ideal. You get the plastic knife, forks and spoons in the party set. They're good because they have a little scoop on the end, and you can use that to fill in. So let's start picking a colour. Let's go for this one here. So we can literally just pour that in like so. I rather do a little bit like that and then go on to the opposite side. Make sure we get the opposite side. And then pour too much in one and not have enough for the other. Now it will find its own level like that, but I like to get a little cocktail stick and just help it on its way like so. But you can see from that it's spreading nicely. And I don't want to go level with the routed out areas, just enough to dip it down. So we can spread that a bit further yet. I mean, you can see the one on this side, look, that's spreading nicely. But we just help it along its way. Okay, you get the general idea. I'll go along, fill this up, and then we'll come back when it's completed. Okay, that's it. That's all in. The good thing about resin, you can do so much one day, come back and do some another day. I've just done this all in a one go, so it's quite a slow process. But you can see we've managed to get them all filled in nicely. Now, what I've been doing as I've been going along is literally get yourself a lighter and you just skim over the top like that. And all we're doing there is the heat of the flame. It literally just helps remove any minute air bubbles that will be in the resin. You can actually see the bubbles all dispersing with the heat from the lighter. And that's it, that's all we can do now. So we'll put this to one side, we'll leave it for 24 hours and hopefully come back and this little project will be finished. Right, it's 24 hours later, everything's nicely set, no problem with that one whatsoever. There's a couple of little speckles, there could be a speckle of dust there, one there, and I think there's a speckle somewhere else, maybe down here on the yellow maybe. So just be conscious of that where you're storing it to actually cure. So there we have him, this little butterfly is finished. So it's routed out on 1/2 inch plywood with CNC bits, cleaned out with end milling bits, and then we use a Pegas No. 5 spiral blade to cut it out on the scroll saw, inlaid with multicoloured resin. We've already sprayed on our sealant, so there's nothing else to do, so this little project is finished. And there we have it. Thank you very much for watching.